Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Geek Bytes podcast, episode number 170 of the show. I'm Ramon Mejia.
I'm Edgardo Acosta.
And every single week on the podcast, I bring you the round of the week's best geek and tech news. We discuss that news and, of course, anything else we happen to be interested in that week. And this week we have some great stuff.
And sad stuff.
And sad stuff, yes.
Well, we're going to be talking about Samsung's folding phone, one of the biggest GoFundMe scams, Disney Plus, comic and Hollywood legends passing, movie trailer Showdown, and much more.
There we go, folks. But of course, we begin our show, though, with geek news. And in Geek News, we're going to begin with a quick story on some tech stuff that came out. Then we're going to like the Hollywood stories and those sad celebrity deaths towards the end of the story news cycle. We're going to have some tech stuff with Samsung. Actually, it's one of the more interesting tech products that have come out recently. Samsung has been teasing its foldable smartphone for weeks and weeks, and they finally unveiled it this past week. And it honestly looks a little disappointing to me. It kind of looks like just two smartphones they attached together with a hinge, but it does work as advertised. It actually reminds me more of a foldable tablet than a phone that's foldable. Like it opens up as a tablet first, and then if you want to, you can fold it up, and then there's just the one screen on there. So it looks more like a foldable tablet to me that makes phone calls. But it's out. Is that something that you would be interested in buying, man?
The tablets have been evolving in a way that that version. It's I always hate it reminds me the Game Boy. Remember the Game Boy with the dual screen and everything that it kind of interacts, so it goes through, but you always had that one little divider border. That
no, this actually does a really good job, like not having that border though. From the small demos we've seen, and then they're during their presentation, it looks like a smooth surface. Like there's really no divide. Yeah, that I've been able to see from their videos.
Yeah, other than unless you're the type of person that actually likes pushy buttons, you'd probably want to go with like the Mac Air. Or the Apple,
like an actual tablet.
An actual tablet.
I guess if you want a tablet that's essentially like an extra large phone that folds up to save space, I guess this might be the thing for you. But I don't know. I'm not really sure about it. Like I'm not something that's intuitively like super interesting, like a foldable smartphone, which is what they're kind of billing it as.
Yeah. Have you seen the other versions? The one that wraps around your wrist?
Yeah, that one. Those kind of foldable bendy ones definitely look super techy.
Yeah.
And making them work is more of a technical challenge. But even this is like, this is definitely a step as far as like something that is at least innovative. Like I'd probably play with it at the store and see if it was interesting. I don't know, but also with extra space, you also get extra RAM, you get extra speed, you have more stuff for memory. So there might be benefits to that.
Yeah.
Especially if like your phone is really kind of doubling as essentially a smaller tablet.
Yeah, because the other three options, if you want to go that route, there is the like paper thin rollable one that literally you could put on your wall, peel it, roll it, put it in a little tubes thing. There's also the projector style one that I think was more of a gimmick though, that actually would project to your forearm.
Oh yeah,
that's a little like bracelet.
Look like a cut fling, and it just projected down your forearm. Yeah.
Then of course your other brand is your wearable eyepiece, kind of like Google Glass.
Yeah, but this is the only one that actually looks like it's almost ready to market. All those other things are just they're like side tech projects.
Yeah.
And if they come out, maybe, but this is the first one of those that you mentioned. Like I might give it a go at the store. I don't see myself or a lot of people buying it because it is a little bit different, and people already have their thin phones that are already kind of big and bulky and large. I think the biggest impediment is is it going to fit nice in a pocket? Is it still going to be very purse appropriate if it's that kind of thing? So we'll have to wait and see once it actually comes out and see what the actual tech demo. Again, this is just like the reveal that I've actually put up for purchase yet, but hopefully it'll be out soon and we can all play around with it.
You know what I'd like to see real quick?
Sure.
Especially with the whole concept of the two angle, if they have like a projector, especially the way you fold it in, project and have like an actual 3D.
Oh yeah,
kind of the holographic kind of.
That's a different technology, but I think that would be interesting as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Next story. PlayStation is ditching E3. They're ditching next year's E3 in 2019, which is like a huge part of that particular convention. Like it's always like for E3 specifically, it's like it's the Entertainment and Electronics Expo. And so they're losing a lot of their electronics section at this point. Like a lot of gaming companies, especially the big ones like Microsoft and Nintendo, have actually already left E3, and they're already doing their own kind of tech projects and their own tech like development and like showcases. And this year, PlayStation is just abandoning it entirely. They don't actually have any announced plans saying that they're going to do their own thing yet. But again, they have plenty of time to set that up.
I got scared. The only reason I got scared because I just recently haven't received it yet.
Yeah.
Getting a PS4, and I'm like, really? There's something going on. My luck, I'm always late on the bandwagon when it comes to tech stuff. So by the time I got it or I'm getting it, I'm guessing PS5 set.
Yeah, there are rumors that it's going to come out in 2020. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's a short development cycle. I know there were always, as soon as a new console launches, there are already developers who are working on games for the next one because it can take years and years and years to make games. But the rumor is like, oh, either Sony's going to do their own thing or they're planning to announce a PlayStation 5 console in 2020. And I'm like, oh, either one of those kind of makes sense, I guess. But it is what it is. So E3 is losing PlayStation, which is going to be a huge block of that convention floor. It's either going to be empty or obviously used for whatever else.
Yeah, because my main thing that I talked about, like, I don't care what kind of console you have. It could have the biggest, best, whatever. It's all about the games.
Yep, it's all about the games.
Yeah.
That's what it is for you.
So. Yeah, seriously. Because don't get me wrong, you can have one with insane graphics techniques, projector, this, accessories, that, and all that, but if you don't have a game to play with it,
what's the point? Yeah, that's definitely a true statement. And hopefully, if they are doing PS5, they'll have some amazing games and some exclusives.
Yeah, because the latest thing that I saw was like supposedly PlayStation put a patent on for a touchscreen on their controller.
Oh yeah, I saw that. So it's gonna be something like the Switch console almost, except that's their controller. I'm like, I guess that's a choice. I'm not sure how. Well, anytime you change the interface options for a console, you're fundamentally changing what developers are used to making it for. So developers are used to using, the controller, which multiple buttons, and they're all set. And that's one of the benefits of that system is that even if like the new system isn't coming out for like 5 or 6 years, like to a degree what your interface options are going to mean. So you already have plenty of experience programming for that particular setup. But anytime again a new interface option like a touchscreen, now all of a sudden, that's a whole new set of programming you got to learn how to do, and to plan for and develop for and develop content for and how you're going to use it. That's one of the things that a lot of developers have issues with the touchscreen on the Nintendo platform. On the Switch is that they're not really sure how to use that touchscreen as effectively as maybe a developer who plans for phone games.
Oh yeah.
So it's the next leap for them. So there are always like drawbacks to that. But if it comes out, I don't doubt that we're all going to buy it.
The only one that I've been wanting, and it was just a gimmick for it. Remember when the PS2 first came out? They were showing these possible future PlayStation system, the PS9.
Oh yeah,
which was the one that was like a what do you call it? Nanobot technology kind of thing. Like you inhale it or something. You just pop the top and and suddenly
and more and more we're kind of getting towards that. And if they're going to do like a virtual reality system or something in the near future, I'm totally up for getting this year to plug in.
Yeah.
Okay. Next story we have this one, the GoFundMe scam. If you haven't heard yet, there was a strange case in New Jersey. A couple raised over $400,000 on GoFundMe for a homeless Good Samaritan, and it appears that the story had a twist. Like this has been like a long, very interesting story. In that the original story was that this lady shown here on the picture, like she was stranded on the side of the road. She'd run out of gas. And this homeless gentleman on the left, he apparently spent his last $20 to go get her gas, and she wanted to repay him by raising some money so that he could, get back on his feet. And so her and her husband had this whole big long GoFundMe campaign where they told his sob story and how they wanted to help him to get off drugs and to get a start in his life, and they raised over $400,000, and that was a happy ending at that particular point for that particular story. And then it was shown later on that the homeless guy started complaining that they haven't given me the money they owed that they raised for me potentially. Like they gave me $75,000, and the rest I haven't seen. And the couple started saying that, no, we're holding him back because we know he has a habit of drug use and we don't want to give it to him because we were afraid he's going to spend it all. And here's the latest twist, folks. According to court records, when that couple was taken to court for not giving that man his money according to the terms that they had set, they revealed basically that they had personally spent all of that money, so that money is completely and 100% gone. And the latest twist is that DAs have NBC Philadelphia copy complaint by Burlington County of prosecutors accusing Mark Yamako and Kate McClure of conspiring with a guy, John Bobbitt Jr., to deceive GoFundMe users in making donations. A source familiar with the case told NBC that Yamako and McClure had already turned themselves in, but not confirm if Bobbitt had done. Apparently, the whole thing was a scam. That it was all pre-made. That everyone was in collusion to essentially scam people out of this. And apparently, the homeless guy had already kind of used this on a different occasion on Facebook to try to raise funds. But together, this campaign was much more successful, and so they're all going to get charged essentially with fraud at this point. And apparently, they can face up to 4 years in jail for this particular crime of defrauding people. Now, GoFundMe on several occasions, when it was an earlier point in the story, they said that they were going to give the homeless guy the full $400,000. I don't think they ended up doing that. Either that or he took the money and he's gone. Either way. But that is one of the weirder conclusions to a GoFundMe campaign. There have been plenty of them where it's like, oh, we just ran out of money before we can make this video game or this board game or whatever. But this is like an intentional scam. Like, oh, that is definitely an interesting way to use that platform.
Yeah, the whole feeding off the empathy and sympathy of people for another person that's really in need. It has been covered by the news. I saw a little bit of glimpses on it that the people, the guy and the girl that was doing the GoFundMe, they made elaborate purchases for themselves, got themselves new cars and new
locations.
Exactly. And the guy did get some, but he did fall back. He did get into his junkie state of mind again and started using all that. He burned through the cash. But the whole concept of it was like, hey, it's for you. You're not responsible, then we did our part. But they noticed like he really doesn't need all the money.
It's always like a weird thing. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you raise it from but you're not giving it something? There's always like, that's kind of suspicious at this point.
It's sad, and like people do that, and like especially right now going on. Like, okay, this is just me, my side, so you might think of me as an a-hole or whatever, but okay, right now the Malibu fires that are happening in California, those are the people that live like in a nice, decent area, nice amount of money that did pretty much well for themselves.
Sure.
Especially if they insured their homes and everything, they should be in the good. I understand as a person, yes, you lost your home, you pretty much almost your everything and all that, and you pretty much had to start all over.
Okay.
But financially, you're in the good. There's a radio host on KLS. His name's Frank Kramer or something. He lost his home. Everything's gone. He hasn't been on the radio for the past.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where you're going with this, but go on.
Yeah. Should you GoFundMe help him out? Quasi celebrity guy that could do well for himself, or just be like, hey, dude, you make enough bank.
I see.
Why should I give you any extra if you
Oh, it's like, okay, so I think there are a few comments in the chat where they're already agreeing with you in the kind of concept here. Ronnie Michelle Mullen is saying, oh, yeah, she's just telling her husband about this, and also makes a comment, that's why it's so hard to help others in need, because people pull that kind of stuff, and it's so sad. So that kind of ties into what you're speaking about a little bit in that where is the appropriate place to help people, and under what platform should you use, and what kind of protections are there for it? Because
there's scams.
Yeah, it's very easy to scam a system like GoFundMe because they're not holding that person liable unless they're giving away rewards for some reason. Mm-hmm. They're not holding them liable to keep their promises.
Yeah.
With the exception of like giving those rewards.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that like GoFundMe or Kickstarter, that's the only thing they're held liable for by the company. So it's always kind of a gamble like, oh, you can invest or you can donate. But the reality is that, most people aren't really held liable for keeping the promises that they say that they're going to do. And that's a reality. Like, to me, it's always much better to give your money to like charities who are there's a whole like website about like which charities give 100% of their money to the sources that they're saying that, and other ones that are giving like 30%, but everything else goes to like administrative costs, and so you always have to be careful what you're giving to. But to me, it's always better to give to those charities because they will 100% apparently use that money, and people have checked on them and they've checked their records and they've shown that they're actually transparent on what they're spending their money on.
Yeah, because we've had the experience, obviously, everybody's dealt with a homeless / transient where they're asking for money and like they're a junkie or something, because you really don't know their history. But, some of them, like, they really just need food. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get you food. I'll buy you a meal. I'll buy, get you something like that. But there are other ones that are just, like, nah, I don't want to.
Yes, it's always challenging to decipher what's real and what's not, especially when somebody you don't know. And sometimes you fall prey to people who take advantage of that kindness, like these folks here. The entire trio of people who literally stole $400,000 from people.
Remember the classic scam artist one of the like a homeless sign or whatever, whatever change can help. But as soon as they're done for the day, they wrap it up, hop into their Escalade, and head on, because they do that for a living.
And nobody says that that's not the case, but a lot of other people just don't. And like they're legitimately people who need help and assistance, and that's always the other side of the coin. Like, how can you tell the difference? And the truth is that you can't. So,
to me, I give it more. I would rather give a person it's going to sound weird, a little like trades in goods and services, is like the street artists. Literally, the street artist is either performing music, doing whatnot, even if he's doing a pantomime kind of thing,
right?
Or the one that's actually selling arts and crafts,
paying
and whatever
for a service in that case, right? I understand what you're saying. So it's a hard thing to do, and that's kind of a tragic ending to that particular story, and that not only did that guy and those ladies like scam everybody, it kind of puts it into people's willingness to be charitable, and that's kind of the saddest part of that particular story.
Yeah, hopefully they get their dues.
Yeah,
and then
they all. I mean, look, they turn themselves in. They realize that they're facing jail time, obviously, so they confessed, and they will be charged. And hopefully, the due process of the law will deal with that particular campaign.
Karma's a bitch.
Yep. Okay, next story. Disney. Disney Plus was announced as a streaming service this last week, and apparently they gave quite a few details about what it's going to be called. It was originally called Disney Play. It's not going to be called Disney Plus. It's set to debut sometime in 2019.
Yeah. Speaking of another company in need.
Yeah. I think Disney's doing just okay. But Disney apparently has plans to try to differentiate itself from Netflix in a couple of different ways. And one that it's going to be essentially a category system where they have their own, obviously, app and interface options, but also they're going to be allowing apps, essentially, where an app for Disney itself, for Pixar, for Marvel, for Star Wars, and for National Geographic. Each one is going to have its own kind of interface system, so that things are essentially already categorized into those particular 5 spots. In addition, so you're going to have all your Disney movies, all your Disney stuff in Disney category, your Pixar movies in like a Pixar app or a Pixar subcategory where it's just Pixar stuff. Same thing for Marvel and Star Wars and National Geographic. It's one of those things that, Disney's probably been planning this for a while since they've been purchasing all this content. And some people think it was like a 5 services one. I personally think Disney's planning to do a tiered like entertainment system. Like, would you want to purchase just Disney or just Disney and Pixar? Or you can get a bundle of like Disney, Pixar, and Marvel for the special discount price or whatever it is.
Not cable, your phone, and whatever.
I think that's what they're going to plan to do.
Bundles.
It's like these bundles for these particular like libraries of entertainment and content. But again, they haven't actually officially said anything about that yet, so that is just speculation. But people who are in the know, who have categorized things, they expect that just the Disney Plus content include over 7,000 episodes of television, over 500 movies as original content initially. And Disney's goal is, of course, over the next 4 or 5 years is to create even more content. We've already seen some of this in the form of like the stuff that they've announced that they're producing now, producing in the future, including 7th season of the Star Wars Clone Wars animated series. We know about the Mandalorian Project, which is a Star Wars themed television show executive produced by Jon Favreau, which is a live action Star Wars series. It's going to be set after the fall of the Empire, but before the emergence of the First Order, so between episodes 3 and 4, essentially. We look at the bounty hunters and the Mandalorians. There's also going to be a second live action Star Wars series following the character from what was it called? Star Wars Rogue One. The captain of that ship, Diego Luna. He's going to be reprising his role as Cassian Andor, and so he's going to get his own live action Star Wars series apparently.
So what they do, like clone him or something, or resurrect him?
No, it's basically set back
Oh, prequel
to that particular thing, of course. Since,
okay. I was
yeah,
wondering.
everyone, spoilers, folks. Everyone,
Well, he's a
everyone
cool
in that movie
guy.
died. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also going to be, of course, Marvel-based television programs, including one for Loki, the Scarlet Witch, Vision, the Falcon, and Winter Soldier, and anybody else they want to put in roles who's willing to go from the big screen to the smaller screens. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually ended up doing something like really interesting, like a Spider-Man live action. Like Tom Holland seems like he would be willing to do something like that, like the whole setup for like the high school kind of life thing. That's very sliced up, like that's very television
He's still
enabled.
young enough. Young enough looking that he could pull it off.
I would be interested in that. But other actual products from Disney they've announced include High Fidelity, the television series, a Monsters Inc. animated show, a Mighty Ducks television show, and plenty of other original content. So lots of things are coming up. Apparently, numbers have floated around saying that a subscription service is going to be anywhere between $8 and $14 per month. They're definitely trying to come in under the Netflix subscription model to get as many users as possible from there.
Anything old Disney that you'd like to see kind of make a comeback, or at least given the reboot?
No, nothing particular. I mean, Disney currently has a wide selection of stuff you can find on the internet or from YouTube or from whatever sources. So most of the stuff that you would find is available in other locations, including other streaming services. Currently, Disney has been kind of collecting things, which is why you're going to see a lot of like the Marvel titles that are on Netflix currently probably showing up on Marvel under Disney, because especially like Luke Cage and Danny Rand and the Iron Fist series, those two in particular are kind of the ones that people are saying, oh, that's the reason that they were disappearing from Netflix, and because Disney plans to develop their own content using those lesser known but still recognizable Marvel properties. They already have television show backgrounds, and so they're going to take them off there and put them on the Marvel side because they know people like them.
Yeah, they can. Obviously, it's their toy box. Literally, they can do whatever they want. I'm just can't wait because we talked about it. They have so much content. I'd like to see the old, what they call the Vault Disney, the old school stuff just coming back.
I don't think they're going to put the racist ones on there, but hey, you never know.
Well, of course. You never know. They could always give Song of the South.
Yeah, there's definitely questionable content in Disney's past. You can look it up on the internet, folks. But
I missed the Donald Duck Nazi propaganda.
Yeah, they definitely have a bunch of like a whole catalog, movies, television, cartoons, animated stuff galore. And so it makes sense that they wanted to make money off it instead of like licensing it out to the people so they can make money off of it. Okay, next story. We're going to move into some video game stuff. Actually more television stuff. Sorry. Netflix is ready to continue its gaming pursuits. With the high marks they got for their production of Castlevania, the animated series, they're apparently planning to do the same treatment for Devil May Cry. So if you played that video game and you were just jonesing for an animated series on that particular end, it's going to be coming. There are very few details. The director is the same director and producer of the Castlevania series, if you've seen that on Netflix. So if you like that one, and that one is very dark, that one's very grown up, and it's very bloody and sexy, and it's all that stuff you would think from a vampire kind of action kind of sense. So maybe Devil May Cry will get the same kind of adult treatment.
I heard it was supposed to be they might work eventually a semi-crossover between Castlevania and Devil May Cry, which would be awesome.
That would be interesting. Well, they're set in different time periods.
Yeah.
Like Devil May Cry is definitely set in the far future during an apocalypse.
Exactly.
Castlevania is set in the far past. So maybe time travel. I mean, look.
It's happened.
Hey, look.
Demon World.
If you can have the Jetsons and the Flintstones in the same television show movies, why not? Yeah, why not?
No. Have you played the game series at all?
Yeah, I played Devil May Cry.
Now, did you watch the? It was like I think a movie, the anime movie.
No, I didn't. Oh, I think I might have watched a couple episodes. I can't remember, but I have played the video games, and it's hack and slash, button mashy kind of action game. And the storyline was never like super awesome, but it's like, oh, if you just want to like kill some stuff and some cool moves and stuff and
Flashing
do some upgrades,
and moves and fights.
It's very much of that generation. Like, oh yeah, that kind of type of video games, which is perfectly fine. It's just like, oh, I've always leaned more towards like RPGs personally.
Yeah, it's basic Capcom fun. Yeah. So it's I liked it, especially if you played the at least past two Marvel vs. Capcom characters. He that became a playable character. Even the little cutscenes made it fun, and especially if you played the last Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, if I'm right.
Yep.
He's very key piece.
Yeah.
Spoilers for that game if you played it.
There's a whole long franchise of storytelling that you kind of play into. Like I said, it's not super deep, but it's entertaining for enough people. So if they're definitely pulling on nostalgia and fans of that particular particular series. And if it works out, if they can give me a good story that's entertaining, I'm all for it. I know that it's hard though. Okay, next story, talking about more things that Netflix is going to produce. Apparently, there's also going to be an animated series version of Pacific Rim and Altered Carbon. That's right, Netflix is still producing its own content, and for some reason, they think animation is the way to go, even though it's more expensive and might not takes longer to do. But they're picking some good intellectual properties, at least.
Remind me, which one was Altered Carbon?
Altered Carbon is based on a series of novels set in the far future. You've probably seen on Netflix as like the white guy who is able to switch bodies. Like he basically comes online and he's a detective, but he's in a body that's not originally his. Like this is a far future.
Wasn't that the one with God, I can't think of his name.
Nobody famous.
Irish guy.
Nobody famous. He was like a real tall, like white dude.
White guy. Oh, I thought it was the one. Was that?
No, but it's not like the far future with like it looks kind of like was it Blade Runner. In that kind of far future looking kind of system, but it's definitely high tech, and it's definitely like the main science theme is like, oh, people in the future, because humanity is so far spread among the galaxies, instead of like taking spatial places, they basically upload their consciousness and send it across like the universe, and then they upload their mind into a body. And it could be somebody else's body, somebody who's renting it out, somebody who's in jail, and so their mind is in jail, but their body's still up for lease to try to pay off the cost, whether they're soldiers or old people or like women, young men, whatever it is. And so it's like using your body, like body becomes sleeves, like clothing, and it's the mind that's operating that's really almost immortal. And if you're rich, you can live forever because you can just clone your old body or purchase a new one with potential like tech upgrades. And you can live forever as long as you can pay for that service. And there are people in this universe who are like hundreds of years old, and they've created like this extra upper class because again, wealth multiplied by time is massive, and that's kind of the idea of like, oh, these rich people who are keeping money and keeping wealth because they never die, and so they never have to leave things to other people. And so it's a class conflict, and it's tech, and it's a great storyline. I really enjoyed it personally. I like the books a little bit more, but it's a good story, and that's what Altered Carbon is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now for Pacific Rim, pretty much is Power Rangers.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, giant robots fighting giant kaiju. So not that complicated.
That's pretty basic as it can be for that one.
That was a much simpler. That's a much simpler synopsis.
Exactly.
Folks.
Power Rangers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Giant kaiju versus giant robots.
Exactly. So at least for a series, it'd be good. Obviously, I don't expect same quality for budget wise, but we'll see what they turn out.
There are definitely things you can do animated wise that you can't do in a live action film. That's like most of the great action pieces in the last like 20, 30 years, or for me at least, have been shown on animated because you can do so many amazing things in that you just have to. I mean, it becomes easier with CGI now, but even then, just because it's pretty in a CGI film, it doesn't mean it's going to be like good acting. But with an animated series, you don't have to be a good-looking actor. You can just be a great voice and a great actor in that respect. And the animation side, as long as it pairs up with that, can be a very entertaining story. And some of the best movies I've ever seen in my life have been animated films. I mean, because they can do amazing things that you just can't. Like you can blow up main characters' brains, or you can like have like psychic powers and riding these fancy motorcycles or turn invisible and so to me, being an animated series and a movie isn't necessarily a bad thing if it's treated well.
Totally.
Yeah. So there we go. Okay. Next story. They found their new Lex Luthor for the animated series. For the the live action television series. Supergirl already has their Superman. I think they're just doing the crossover with Superman and Elseworld, where Superman is in his black suit, and you have all your characters crisscrossing. But apparently, in upcoming episodes, they're also going to introduce Lex Luthor. So, and it's going to be John Cryer, who was Ducky from Pretty in Pink. Right? Yeah.
All John Hughes, John Waters, John whatever's. Yeah.
So most people might recognize him from 2.5 Men. But
it's hard for me to because he's always been a very lovable character.
Yes.
To be that almost stone face. What is it? I can't always narcissistic. Devious, character as Lex Luthor is.
I kind of almost wanted the Lex Luthor from Smallville to come back. I always thought he was a really good Lex Luthor.
I'm listening to his podcast right now. John Rosenbaum or something.
It might be, that's a good call, man. Yeah. But I was expecting him to go back. I was like, oh, apparently John Cryer also appeared in Superman 4. Was it called The Quest for Peace, where he was Lex Luthor's nephew. So I think that's why they're pulling him into this particular universe. So, but it's an interesting choice. Not a bad actor, so maybe it'll turn out well.
It's just weird, just Ducky. It's just,
I would start picking people as certain characters.
Because the other rumor was supposedly they were going to get the guy that plays the Kingpin from the Daredevil to play Lex Luthor. Yeah.
That he was open to it. I think he's currently body set for. He's amazing as the Kingpin. He really is. Like the Kingpin role is like, he's probably the best character in that entire franchise.
Exactly.
He really is. He's probably the best actor. Like he does the best job of just inhabiting that character. I mean, Daredevil does a good job too. I'm just saying, as a character actor, he probably wins for me.
Well, remember Bryan Cranston was also another one that was just in the rumor mill of him being a possible
He's in the
Lex
rumor
Luthor.
mill of being everybody.
But he's awesome.
Yeah. So plenty of choices.
Are you good with Ducky being Lex Luthor?
We'll see how it turns out. I don't watch that show, so I'm like, not as impactful for me. I saw part of the first season of that series. I'm like, this is okay. I like the crossover episodes where she shows up in Flash. I'm a bit more of a Flash fan. I think that show is definitely better, but a lot of fans, and they're definitely expanding the roster. Like this kind of gives credence to the rumors that they're definitely not planning any Superman films in the near future if they're giving like major characters like Lex Luthor to the television series.
Yeah, I'm just surprised they didn't go the route of how they've been swapping out a race, and they made him like an Asian guy or whatever.
Oh, well, you can do them crossovers, whatever the case. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, next entertainment story, folks. Apparently, the author and producer of the John Reacher films thinks Tom Cruise is too short for the role now. Yeah, that was the story. Essentially, they're making a Netflix version of the John Reacher series. Jack Reacher. Sorry, not John Reacher. Jack Reacher series, which is very like spy thriller-ish kind of storyline. And Tom Cruise is apparently too small for the role, and so they're looking for new actors and new lead. There are even rumors that they're planning to make Jack Reacher Jacqueline Reacher, making it into a female role, like you mentioned, as a possibility.
Yeah,
I think it's more about money. I'm like, I don't know how much money you'd have to pay Tom Cruise to star in a television show.
Don't get me wrong, he's pretty much an immortal little elf that he is, but
no, he's in shape and he looks good. I mean, he's almost almost 50.
If not older.
Yeah, no, he looks amazing for his age, and he's in better shape than I'm probably ever going to be. And he does a lot of his own stunts. He's currently filming Top Gun. I think the story about him with that shows that he stopped production so that he could learn how to actually fly a jet. Yeah,
whoa.
And that was his thing. That was the story recently on that particular show, and that particular movie, I should say, in Top Gun, the sequel. I think it's supposed to be like, Goose's son is also Top Gun fan, and they're looking for revenge or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm like, I kind of get what that means, especially if you're a fan of the particular novel series. Like that character is described as being an imposing figure. Like he walks in a room, you're like, oh shit. That kind of like imposing figure, and Tom Cruise just doesn't exude that particular aspect. I want to say like Superman was the better choice. The actor who plays Superman currently in the latest Mission Impossible film, like he kind of had that physique of like, oh yeah, he walks in and be like, oh yeah, I'm just.
Well, that was the thing, especially with Tom Cruise being an icon. He was more of an icon of the, let's say, 80s, 90s characters.
Oh, but he still put seats in
definitely
in theaters, right?
But there was always the film tricks that they did with him, especially depending on his co-stars, especially if there was a lady.
Hire shorter people.
No, literally have them on standing on a platform, soapbox or whatnot. Even like sad to say, even Mr. Robert Downey Jr. They make him wear lifts. So. Little, they're not exactly your iconic 6 foot something, 200 whatever kind of pound guys.
That's right. It's shortism. Mm-hmm. They're discriminating against short people, and there you go. And that's what. No, it's probably just about money. Like he probably costs too much to put in an actual television series for like 12 episodes, because they're paying millions of dollars for him. They paid him millions of dollars to show up in those movies to fill seats with his name, basically. Because that particular property is not super well known. It's not as well known as the Tom Clancy series or as the like Mission Impossible series, and that's just the way it is.
That's all about it. If Xenu allows it to be on his schedule.
Yep, there you go. That's probably what it is. Xenu has its scheduling conflicts. Okay, on to a bit of sad news in the entertainment world. We have a couple deaths to report. The first one is William Goldman, who won 2 Oscars for screenwriting over the 50-plus career. He died at the age of 87 from complications relating to colon cancer and pneumonia. So he died in his home, surrounded by his family, so that's very nice. But you might have recognized some of his work from The Princess Bride, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are probably his best-known films. But also All the President's Men, Marathon Man, The Great Waldo Pepper. Haven't seen that one. But he's also written on a bunch of other things and screenplays, and he's really not. A lot of people will probably best recognize him from The Princess Bride. That's the one that really solidified his name as sort of like original novelist and original storytelling and original movies.
Is he the writer in it, or
yeah, he wrote the book, and then he also made the movie.
Oh, okay. Because I'm being a little insensitive. I don't recognize.
No, it's okay. Most people don't realize The Princess Bride is a book first.
Oh, okay.
And it's a different. It's an expanded story, and it's interesting. It gets more details, but it's basically the same story. And I think for a lot of people, the movie version is more touching. The comedy in the movie is definitely better.
Oh yeah, because it's very pop culture, especially with the characters that they had on there.
Yeah.
So it was fun. He did obviously great work. Everybody knows it. Well, at least people that grew up along with it, yes. Familiar. But it wasn't something they, and I don't mean it in a bad way, they made you read in school kind of deal.
No. Yeah, he did. I mean, most of the stuff most people are never going to read. Mm-hmm. But they will know those movies. Like Butch Cassidy and Kid is definitely one of those hallmark movies of those actors and of the Western kind of style, like modern Western kind of story.
Yeah.
With modern actors, like it's one of the top ones that I think most people know about. So he will be missed, and he lived a long life and fulfilling and had a nice family. So there you go.
Hopefully, they have a library or something dedicated to him.
Maybe. Well, let's see. Now, the next one, unfortunately, is even more well known. Stan Lee passed this last week. He died at the age of 95. The man almost lived to be 100 years old, and he was working till the day that he died. Basically, he was doing cameos and he was doing signings. I know he had stuff planned up in China for the Stan Lee Comic-Con in China, basically in the near future. That obviously won't be working out. But he was working right up until his death, apparently. So it's very sad. Stan Lee is a comic book legend. He's best known for his work at Marvel, creating characters that become household names and beloved by millions. Stan Lee is credited with creating or co-creating over 362 characters in the Marvel Universe, including the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and so many more. Like, just looking at the list of characters he's created, I'm like, oh yeah, main characters, then of course villains, and lots of villains, and like other side characters and spin-offs galore. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a long career. There have been countless tributes to Stan Lee this week. People doing, I think I like the artwork one's the best.
Oh yeah, all the real fans.
Oh yeah, the real art. I mean, people have been touched by his characters and by the comics and the stories he's created so much so that they became storytellers themselves. They became artists. They became novelists, or they became comic book storytellers. And a lot of them have done art tributes to Stan Lee, and it's been super lovely to see all those particular artistic expressions. But for me, hands down, the best tribute I've seen or heard was done by Kevin Smith on the Fat Man and Batman podcast, formerly known as Fat Man Beyond, formerly known as Fat Man and Man. In my head, it's always going to be Fat Man and Man, where he talks about his interactions with Stan Lee over the decade, starting with the influence he had on him as a child, and giving him a moral code, teaching him it's better to help people than to harm them, and that power has a responsibility associated with it. And then continuing on through the cameos where Stan Lee was in Kevin Smith movies, including starting with Mallrats, and a bunch of other things, and their relationship, how it developed and how they became friends, and Stan thought of him as a loved him like a son at one point. And just to hear Kevin Smith talk about these emotional moments is super touching. We'll leave a link on the show notes if you want to go check out that particular podcast with Mark Bernard and Kevin Smith and Fat Man Beyond. But that's definitely the one that I think was the most touching to me.
Oh yeah, he crossed all platforms when it comes to media. It wasn't it's my brand, it's Marvel, you got to be all this. Everybody loved the Marvel characters. Some of the tributes that I love seeing is the creator of Dragon Ball Z did an artwork where they had Goku with Stan Lee with the halo on him riding the dragon. There's another one where the birthplace of Superman. They actually have a large Superman statue. They actually put a black band on Superman's arm.
And this is in real life, where like the people who created Superman, like the hometown of that creator, they have a giant statue, like over a story tall, and they had
put a massive black band
and they put a band on Superman's arm to honor Stan Lee.
Yeah. He's gone all over. I love the little. There's so many tributes on him.
Yeah, you look up on the internet tribute to Stan Lee, and you're going to see pages and pages of stuff, just even like images and artwork.
Yeah, and I love all the great tributes, and he's also got there's always people with that sense of humor. With the
well, there are people who made snide comics about people. Like I think there was Army Hammer. Bill Maher, Army Hammer. I mean, Army Hammer was one that said, "Oh, it's really touching that the people who are giving tributes to Stan Lee do it by posting pictures about themselves. Great job, guys, posting about yourself." And he kind of made it about his intention, apparently, according to his what's it called? His
Twitter feed?
No, well, he made a post apologizing. Basically, his apology to it was like, "Oh, I meant to be commentary on our selfie culture. I didn't mean to offend anybody or to harm anybody's mourning period." I'm like, yeah, that was definitely insensitive. And I think Kevin Smith said it. He's like, he just doesn't get it. Like he just doesn't understand how impactful Stan Lee was, and people lie that he was always stopping for a selfie. He always had time for the fans, no matter where they were. I mean, eventually at cons and everything, of course, because he has to make a living. But also even just on the street, like if you stopped in today, can I take a picture with you? Even like the early 70s when like he wasn't internet famous, he was always like, yes, I will happily stop for you and talk to you and chat with you. And he was known as the ambassador of comics and the ambassador of Marvel and nerddom in general. And so people showing those selfies like, yeah, Stan was a part of my life. And that's what that meant. And it wasn't, oh, look at me with Stan Lee, I'm trying to jump in a bandwagon. And that's just something that he didn't get in. And Bill Maher's point was that he was a little more disrespectful than saying that Stan Lee's world that he helped create was a dumb world in which someone like the president of the United States could get elected because people are stupid because they were. It's a world that elevates comic books over like real literature or real thinking. Yeah. And I'm like, that's ouch. I definitely get what he's saying. But I'm like, no, that's not true. Like comic books are real literature. They're real entertainment. Like there are stories in those pages of those comic books that rival Homer, rival Shakespeare, who were also populist writers, by the way. They weren't in their times, they weren't works of art. They were popular pieces of literature. Totally. And so I'm like, yeah, but there are always going to be those people who just have comments about him. Like, okay, that's your deal. But for most of us, we love Stan Lee, and we're definitely sad at his passing. Yeah. And it's a sad day in the world when you're going to see your next Stan Lee cameo and realize he's not actually around.
The good thing about it is they did prep because they were realistic on his condition, on his age and everything.
They got all their cameos shot first.
Oh yeah, they got his cameos. He knew when he was done. He was started like he was like, okay, I'm not gonna do the autographs anymore. I'm getting there.
Well, yeah, but even that changed. He's like, yeah, remember Powell Entertainment had an issue with them. The company started, and they were in legal conflict. And then once it was like, oh yeah, Powell's gonna get you into China and your own convention. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do signings some more because he has bills. And he's like, I haven't been really wise with my money. Yeah. That was the commentary.
A lot of other people were taking advantage of him.
And that was a concern as well. I mean, he's basically at the end of his life at that point, and even though we didn't realize it, obviously, and there were controversies there, but it's all kind of past. I mean, as far as his life goes, it's over, and he's he'll be missed by a lot of people.
The good thing is you have, at least to the best of my knowledge, 4 cameos. You're still going to see him in the movies.
Yeah,
and I wonder
for Avengers 4, we have him for Captain Marvel. What are the other ones?
Let's see. We just saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. Trying to think if there's any other Guardians. There was that debatable Guardians because of the remember, since they got rid of Gunner. So there's that one that's kind of.
I'm sure we saw other cameos that have been captured. I know those two definitely.
And Strange 2 and
Doctor Strange
and supposedly Black Panther.
I don't know. Have they already started filming those?
Well, that was the thing. They kind of were once again advanced of it, and
Maybe the case.
they got cameos.
We'll have to wait and see. But at some point, Stanley's not going to be part of that universe either.
Yeah, you're going to see a tribute. There was a little,
definitely sadder. Yeah.
Yeah, the little semi joke that some people were thinking, "Hey, get Deadpool to do the cameo as Stan Lee."
Oh no,
keep the costume with the hair, the glasses.
Yeah,
and
I remember
the
there was actually an artistic note on like Facebook and Twitter saying that Deadpool is the only person in the entire Marvel universe who's going to be self-aware that Stan Lee has died, because I think he actually Stan Lee, like Deadpool at one point, like came into the real world, and comic book guys, and so he's the only one in that whole universe who's aware that his creator has passed. And I was like, oh, that's like super sad, man. Why would you say that?
Yeah, it's gonna see. If anything, honestly, even after those live cameos of him recorded, I feel they're gonna have. I think they did that technically with Deadpool 2. Supposedly they had like a graffiti artist or something of him in the background.
Yeah, and he was in the trailer. I remember he was in the trailer of that as well. But yeah, and Yolanda Ontiveros in chat says, "Gone forever." Gone but never forgotten. His legacy is that of a million lifetimes, and that's absolutely true. So, like I said, he's one of those icons, especially in geek and nerd culture, where he was always just a promoter of something that we loved, and he was never ashamed to talk about it and to be and to be the comic guy and to be that ambassador. And for a lot of us, he made the things that we loved, our nerddoms, socially acceptable in a lot of ways. Like you see, oh, that guy, he's on television, he's a creator, and it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to love these stories. I mean, Excelsior and to be a fan of him, and he kind of created that concept of like, oh yeah, you can be a fan of these particular things, be a Marvel fan. We encourage it. And even though it was like self-promoting a little bit in dividing fans between like DC and Marvel, it was still like, oh yeah, it's okay to have these little subgroups, and it's okay to like share the love of your thing.
He is pretty much the Walt Disney of the Marvel world.
Yes,
to be honest. What do you think? Obviously, depending on where they lay him, the rest they have. Do you think any memorials or like monuments in his honor?
I don't know. I know they had a private ceremony for his funeral this week, and that's all I'm aware of. I don't know if they have any plans for anything, because his wife is dead. He's survived by his daughter and his friends, and that's as far as I know. So,
if anything,
I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Stan Lee statue somewhere in Disney, in the Marvel section, or like in
they got his handprints technically, kind of like the Walk of Fame.
No, he got that last year. He got a place on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, or for the Grauman's Chinese Theater.
The star.
Yeah, he got his handprints.
Oh, actually, in the
he
awesome.
actually has his handprints in his signature there. So he does have a place there, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Stanley memorial in like some Disney place, or in like on the.
I would love a museum.
There's a Marvel Island, I think, for Universal Studios in Florida.
Oh, that was the whole transitioning of leaving and coming and all that.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that popped up somewhere. Yeah. So
I would love to. I don't know much of his biography to know like where exactly he came from and lived around that, but obviously a museum dedicated to him.
I don't doubt that they're going to do a biop of him. There's definitely going to be a documentary of him and his life, because it's super interesting to see how his career developed, how he met his wife. Like just reading like articles about his life and the comic series, and the controversies with artists, and some feel like they're not getting credit, and there's a bunch of drama obviously in any kind of community or any kind of like publishing situation, good times and bad times. So I don't doubt that they're going to do this story at some point. So there you go. So that's our end of our show. We want to make sure we have a movie trail Showdown, but that's the end of our news section.
Love you, Stan.
Yeah, that's the end of our of our news section. We're doing Movie Trail, and that'll be it for the show. But Stanley will definitely be missed by billions of people around the world. Okay, movie trailer Showdown, folks. We got 4 trailers for you to watch, and we're going to decide which ones we like the best. Starting off with Dumbo, and this is the second trailer for this particular movie series. And it's a little bit sadder. Do you have a chance to watch any of these yet?
I got a chance to watch them all. Okay. I liked somebody did a little joke, because this is where Dumbo has his quote unquote clown Joker makeup. Then they did a side by side of him and the Joker with the Joaquin Phoenix. I was like, oh my god! As long as he doesn't have the scars.
CGI Dumbo.
CGI animals all over, because PETA would have lost their mind if they did anything with live animals.
I was actually very curious. I mean, I was very surprised at how they were introducing humans to this story, because the original story, obviously, Dumbo's the character, and it's a very like animal focused storyline and where there is no real human interaction. And yet, so this feels more like an original storyline.
The name just barely popped in my head. Colin Farrell. So Colin Farrell, he's obviously plays the father in it. There's always the family element in it.
Definitely more about the circus necessarily than Dumbo himself.
Yeah, the circus life. And a little bit of a spoiler if you pay attention to the trailer.
Oh, wait, does the mom die?
Well, obviously I don't see her around if she exists. But the thing is, it looks like he loses the arm at some point. Because you see two arms right there, but I just noticed the glove.
The dad.
Yeah, the dad. Because I noticed just the glove right now, but there's a scene where
lion ate it.
Yeah, maybe, who knows?
Ooh, maybe an elephant stamped on it.
Yeah. But they got the classic "Baby of Mine" song, so for those people,
I don't know that can be super cute and super adorable. Like you see, like a lot of it seems to focus on like the circus itself and not necessarily on Dumbo. And that might work for some people. But I'm happy that at least it's not the exact same storyline that I've seen before. Like they're making it a little bit more original. It feels almost like Operation Dumbo in some respect.
Well, the whole concept of this,
free the pachyderm.
Well, the whole concept of this is a Tim Burton movie, and the closest thing that it reminds me with Tim Burton style with live action. Have you seen Big Fish?
Yeah, I think I remember seeing it at some point.
Yeah, it's almost in the same styling kind of thing with like the carny kind of folk.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So
okay, might be the case. And in chat room, Yolanda says, if not done by his estate, I'm sure his fandom family would come through for the
Stanley
for the Stanley tribute statue, but definitely, I don't doubt it. Okay, let's see. Replicas. That's the one with Kevin. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's like there's a K in there, but it's. I'm not really sure what this is about, to be honest. Like the main theme is essentially that Keanu Reeves, his family gets in a car accident, his wife and kids die, and he clones them, and he uploads their brains specifically to those clone bodies, and they continue on with life. The kids grow, the wife continues on, and at some point she kind of figures out that something's wrong or something's not right, and that's the big reveal. Like, oh, she realizes she's a clone. Like the fact that she's cloned isn't necessarily the story.
The self-awareness thing. So it's almost like your altered carbon kind of like storyline a little bit.
But it's also like the concept of the corporation wanting to reclaim their product.
Yeah,
like in their point of view, their resources were used to make these things, and they're not really people because they're not really the originals, and so they're their property, and that's the concept. And how far Keanu Reeves is willing to go, and I believe like they show a sequence where it changes, where it's not about the clones, it's about him uploading his mind or a version of his mind into a robot to protect his family, and then that's where the action comes in. So I'm like, oh, this is confusing. Like, what's the important points of this story? And I'm like, oh, that's because they're giving away a lot in this trailer, but like, it seems like it might be interesting enough. I'm not sure how it is. Like, they definitely devoted enough towards the CGI, where it's like, is this supposed to be a sci-fi thriller? Is it a cautionary tale? I'm like, so it's kind of in the air. I was like, what that trailer is actually about.
It's a little Frankenstein. It's a little Matrix. Yeah. It's a little of all that, but it looks good in general. So
it does look good. So I'll have to see. And this is a teaser for Toy Story 4 that just came out on November 12th. And it's a very Toy Story trailer. We can't play music, obviously, the sound, because then we get copyright infringement notices. Yeah, we get notices.
But it's a very 60s hippie-ish song.
It's and it's definitely in the theme of like the Toy Story. And then like the new character is Sporky. I'm not.
Forky.
I don't know what his actual name is. I don't think they've actually shown what the character's name is, but he's a spork with with like one of those twisty tie things on him.
Yeah, because if you remember the last Toy Story, Bonnie's the new kid that takes the ownership of the toys, and she's like a kindergarten preschooler kind of thing. So it looks like she has a big imagination where she's made things. So I guess that could be the case. But yeah,
like this franchise can go on forever. You just repeat that, where it's like, oh, we have a new kid and a new toy, and
now the part that's going to be funny.
I'm kind of curious if they're going to like poochie it up with the new character. To be honest,
my thing is how they're going to market it. The only part that's kind of tricky, not tricky, is from a little spoiler. Is Tom Hanks talked about the recording the voice, the scenes for it. He said there's one that literally broke him down.
Oh,
so get ready to get those heartstrings.
Maybe somebody
pulled.
dies again.
Who knows?
Okay. Yolanda in chat room says, I hope they do justice to the pink elephant scene referring to the Dumbo movie. Yeah,
that he gets drunk?
That was such a weird scene to me. Like, that gave me nightmares as a kid. I'm not sure if I want to see that again as an adult. Unless I'm already drunk or high at that screening.
It was a whole thing for me. Now, did you see the other trailer, though, for Toy Story 2, or not Toy Story 2, excuse me, Toy Story 4, where supposedly it deals with carnival toys? And it's voiced by the guys
is this
from
like an
Key and
official
Peele.
trailer, or is this
It's another like teaser trailer for it.
Or is it a spoof?
No, it has with Buzz and Woody with them. If you want to.
Well, we can check it out later.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, I'm not sure.
But it exists. It exists. So it looks like it's going to be a scene where they travel to a carnival and then they're going to kind of do a little crossover with carnival toys.
Last trailer is going to be for Pokemon Detective Pikachu. I was genuinely surprised at how much I liked this trailer in this world. I'm like, I was super skeptical about hearing Ryan Reynolds' voice out of the mouth of Pikachu as a detective. I'm like, that's an interesting concept.
Because we covered it, because we talked about it, but we didn't see an actual trailer for it.
It was basically people would make fun of it, like, oh, that's a weird collection of things that we never thought we'd see together. But looking at this trailer, it's like, oh, they're taking a very sort of serious treatment of like, oh, if Pokemon existed in the world and they had real life counterparts, what would they look like? And they do like a really great job on the CGI. I'll give them that. Mm-hmm. Like the fur looks nice, but there's still the anime versions of them. They didn't kind of like make them too real. And the storyline is like, oh, he's the son of a famous Pokemon trainer, but he doesn't want to go with his father's legacy, or he's not a good Pokemon trainer of his own, so he can't live with a family name. And then there's always a story like, oh, that's why Ash understood Pikachu, but nobody else did, and that's what this is basically. And so they're definitely looking at the lore and like, oh, they're making what could potentially be a very interesting buddy kind of detective story almost. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, with Pokemon. And I'm like, oh, that's just curious enough. That's just interesting and original enough to make me interested to actually go to this. I'm just hoping it's not going to be like some dumb version of it. But even if it's just as good as this trailer, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of on board.
Yeah, because the whole thing, and of course the fan art goes right up right after you see it. What everybody sees, or what everybody hears, is what everybody sees, and a lot of people were posting that picture of Pikachu in the Deadpool costume.
Yeah.
Because it is Ryan Reynolds. You hear the voice. He's keeping it pretty PG because you're not hearing Pikachu come out with the F word. But
not in this version. Maybe they'll do a version in a couple of years where it's the rated R version of Pikachu. But where they do like a Princess Bride version.
Yeah, and they had like pretty decent characters, a nice variety for the Pokemon, because they got literally, I think they're almost up in the thousands of Pokemon characters.
And Peggy joined the conversation.
Yeah,
look, Aunt Peggy's watching us. Hey.
But I'm waiting. They'll eventually show. I want to see the big legendary Pokemon. I want to see. Well,
you get to see Charizard there. I mean,
but I want to see like Gyarados. Gyarados is one big mess.
Well, they're also pulling from not just the original franchise, but also like all the expansions of the other episodes. It's like there's a huge plethora of like Pokemon
Psyduck,
you can have in the. I think most of us who grew up watching the original Pokemon series, like the original like release in the US, like those characters recognize. But there are also some extras who are like like from the expansions and we don't have a connection to them.
Yeah.
Like the ninja Pokemon that you see in there, like, modern. Yeah. But I definitely saw a good emphasis on the original characters, because they're trying to pull in like, okay, guys, we know you're older, but you can watch it with the kids. You recognize those characters. Team Rocket's going to show up.
Oh, yeah. And the big thing is the gym battles, or they want to see it go down.
Yeah, no, it looked like they were almost organized like animal fighting rings between like Pikachu and
the Peter makes an issue of like made up animals fighting.
There was a Funny or Die trailer version of this where like, the dark side, if Pokemon were real, like they were capturing like these animals in the forest and forcing them to fight, and it was like this really dark version of Pokemon. It's like, that's kind of what it would be actually. So, yeah. But yeah, those are your 4 trailers. Which one do you think won the internet this week, man?
Pokemon. Honestly, so much going on for it.
I didn't say Pokemon Detective Pikachu is the one that was surprising and the most interesting out of all the ones we've shown. There are definitely some nostalgia pulls for Dumbo and for Toy Story 4.
Yeah, for sure.
But Pokemon at least felt original and felt new. And I think that's the one that wins it for me. So Pokemon Detective Pikachu wins our version of the internet this week, folks. And that's the end of the show. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching, whether you're watching us live or on your podcast or on the YouTube, wherever it is. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you want to support the podcast in any way, shape, or form, you can find out all the ways you do so at
geekbytespodcast.com/support.
Yep, there you go. For Geek Bytes Podcast, folks, I'm Ramon Mejia.
I'm Edgardo Acosta.
And remember, folks, till we can hang it again, remember to go geek out about something.